We'd love to train software developers and build custom software solutions. I do a lot of work as a fractional CTO. With over a decade of executive leadership and a solid 25 years in software development, I've mastered the art of transforming technology teams and products. So, all right, folks, they've wrapped up the Apple Glowtime event, and if you're like me, you probably walked away feeling like Apple's kind of trying hard to stay relevant. Now, my bias is probably going to show through here. I'm not a big Apple guy. You know, you guessed it, by a .NET developer on Windows for a lot of years. You can guess that my device in my pocket is certainly not an iPhone. But so you'll probably hear some bias in this, but I will give the parts that I am interested in and some of the props where they're due. So they did make a big deal about their new features, but I kind of think ultimately here Apple's trying to play catch up, and so I kind of wonder where the trillions or billions or however many lots of dollars that Apple spends on R&D is going. But I think Android's been doing a lot of the stuff that their iPhone's been doing for a lot of years. Pixel 9 is definitely setting the bar, and I think that Apple's trying to play catch up. But let's break it down, because I'd be curious to hear your perspective. As always, I love hearing your guys' comments, but let's dive in. Okay, so let's dive into our topic here today. So, of course, the very first thing they started with is Apple's big cash cow. So they started with the iPhone 16. Now, Apple is shouting from the rooftops all about Gen AI and its integration into the iPhone. But it's hard not to feel like Apple's just trying to play catch up to what Google was doing with the Pixel 9. It felt very repetitive to what Google has already kind of announced with their Pixel 9. And with the difference is that Apple actually launched their Pixel 9, whereas Gen AI, the AI-driven user experience from Apple, is coming soon. And so I thought that was kind of a miss by Apple, to be honest, but Apple's trying to play in this space. So I'd be curious to know if there's anything groundbreaking. Right now, the new Apple integration APIs are neat, but it's kind of the same old, hey, we're finally here feeling. And at least they're making it easier for us to build AI-powered apps. Now, the one thing I will give them props for that I'm going to jump over to my screen share here that I am interested to take a look at is their new A18 and A18 Pro iPhone chips. I think these are really interesting because the A16 is always good. I actually think Apple's hardware is actually really good. So even though I'm not an Apple fanboy by any stretch, quite opposite actually, I will tell you that I think Apple is pretty, what they do with their hardware is pretty impressive. I wish they didn't have the walled gardens. I wish they didn't have a lot of other things. But I think what's going to be really interesting about this is they, start with the geek specs here, right? Is the A18, A18 is built on 2nd Gen 3 nm process, which was also true for the 17 Pro. The 17, but even just the A18, not the A18 Pro. 17 Pro was 19 billion transistor fixed with 6 CPUs, whereas this one is 8. Where do I see it? 8 core. Here we go. With so the A18, A18 is built on 2nd Gen. So that's talking about the 17. Okay, so for the A18, Apple's going to be a 6-core CPU, but step the GPU down to 5 cores, right? The company isn't comparing the A17 or A18 and A18 Pro and said it promises a 30% improvement in CPU performance over the A16 Bionic. Similarly, for the GPU, it promises a 40% improvement. This is going to be really important, not just for playing games. I know a lot of people are like, I don't play games on my phone. I don't care about the GPU. This is going to be really important for the AI processing, right? In order for it to be able to do the AI processing, right? As for the 16-core neural network, that's the other part that's really important for processing. Same number of cores we saw in the A17 Pro, and this promises a 2x improvement. So, excuse me. So overall, that is really impressive, and I actually am a really big fan of Apple's hardware. They're very efficient. I think that's one of the biggest things here, is that I think they're way more efficient, unfortunately, than the Tensor chips. Google's been seeing some problems on the Pixel 9 with the Tensor chips. Once they launched them, they saw some heat dissipation problems that were shutting down some of the cores. I think they were able to fix it. I'd have to go back and double check. Apple runs a lot tighter ship than that, and that's the advantage of being a walled garden with the chips and the hardware all being produced by the same the chip hardware and the software all being produced by the same people, right? So also updated the image processing capabilities A18 Pro chips, which now promises a 2x improvements for video encoding. So The power that they're packing into these phones is just incredible. I mean, it's true for the Pixel 9. It's true for this, for the A18 and the A18 Pro. It really is incredible, and it's really funny because I just don't think that a ton of people are really utilizing the full power of the power that runs around in their pockets. So, anyways, but back to our main topic here, because I mean, definitely the iPhone is the big thing. I mean, like, iPhone is still about 50% of Apple's revenue, and so it's a huge cash cow for them. So ultimately, I didn't see anything there that was earth-shattering from like innovation perspective. I love the hardware, but I mean, I don't think that's a huge earth-shattering announcement that's going to shake the roof. Next up, the Apple 10 Watch series. Again, I think they're just. I mean, the Apple Watches are obviously hugely popular, but they're just making these small incremental changes, and the fan club will continue to go buy the new ones. But ultimately, I didn't really see anything crazy revolutionary being offered there, right? The good news, though, is you do get new sensors to play with as a developer, and it does offer a more robust data set for health-related apps. But there's not anything that really hasn't been tackled by the competition. I have literally a $20 smartwatch. That's a Wise smartwatch. I don't know, maybe I paid $40. But it certainly was a far cry from the cost of an Apple Watch. There's also the Apple Watch Ultra 2, which feels more like an upgrade to get people outdoors. If they've added enhanced GPS and adventure-focused APIs, which is cool if you're developing a niche outdoor application. So if you want to actually build, an outdoor application to run off of the phone or off of the watch, there's some good stuff in there. But again, this isn't really anything new or earth-shattering. Now, as always, make sure you go back and check out our previous coding samples, because we offer hundreds of free coding samples. So go back and subscribe to the channel. Check out our free coding samples. We produce lots of them, and we've got more coming. Now, Apple's AI push, this one really feels like an attempt to catch up with Google's AI capabilities, but they're branding Apple Intelligence. But honestly, it feels like we've seen most of these features before. The integrated AI in the OS is a positive for developers, but but this isn't new, right? The APIs do not allow for some cool privacy-focused apps, since everything is processed on device. So if you're working on apps that prioritize user data, there's a small win here, but don't expect to be blown away by innovation. Now, what is kind of interesting on the iPhone, and I think this is really unique, is they have LiDAR 2 on the iPhone 16 Max Pro, or Pro Max, sorry. And that's where Apple shines a little bit, especially for its AR developers, right? Assisted reality developers. The improved depth mapping and precision in the AR kit means you can create more immersive and accurate augmented reality experiences. Now, Android's had the same similar capabilities for a while, but this has been a really big limitation for app developers. So Apple is catching up here. Now, with the new AirPod Max, be really careful. They've been hugely innovative. There's new colors. Yeah, hopefully you sense my sarcasm. Now, they do have it's an enhanced spatial audio. I don't know. I think they try to come up with as many buzzwords as they could, but honestly, this has been around for a long time. And so for an AirPod, AirPod Max that's going to cost, I don't even know how much they cost. That's because I would refuse to pay that amount for a pair of headphones that I can get comparable for literally a tenth of the price. Now, let's dive into iOS 17, because that's what's really important to us developers, is its privacy-first design. Apple loves to flaunt its commitment to privacy, and this update gives developers more tools to create privacy-focused apps. So you can take advantage of on-device machine learning. This is more of Apple reinforcing its existing ecosystem rather than breaking new ground. So it is super important, and privacy is a huge deal. But if you've been building apps on Android 14, it won't really feel like a huge leap, because Google started doing a lot of this on Android 14 as well. Now, the big guns, the Apple Silicon M4 chip. This is a really big, and again, I really like the M4 chips, right? This is where Apple's truly trying to hold the crown. The M4 chip promises ridiculous performance and energy efficiency, which is great for developers pushing the limits on machine learning and heavy computational tasks. Now, the Snapdragon processors are really good, and they're highly competitive on this. But this is one point where, even as a non-Apple fanboy, I'm just going to have to say the M4 wins, right? The M4 is a very impressive chip. And Apple being able to work within the walled garden allows them to just drive crazy efficiencies. I mean, I think what pretty much every Windows user is going to admit out there is that, Mac and the Mac OS X are just going to run circles around. It is just going to run circles around efficiencies of a Windows laptop, and that's a bummer. I would love to see that improve. And like, shame on Intel and AMD for not figuring out something a little bit better. I'm glad that the Tensor chip is trying to push this a little bit, but at the same time, or the Snapdragon processors. But I just again, this is where just Apple's going to shine. They always have, and they always will. All right, so they talked about the iPhone 16's camera improvements. Of course, it wouldn't be an Apple event if they aren't talking about camera, the iPhone's camera, which is great. But again, if you've got a Pixel or a Samsung, one of the Samsung Galaxies, it depends on which reviewer you read, but there's enough shootouts out there that I'm not going to get into a deep shootout of the camera stuff. Plus, if the only way we're able to sell phones is by keeping to include boosted cameras, I'm still running a Samsung 22 Ultra, and it still shoots phenomenal pictures, unbelievable pictures. And so I get that there's some impressive improvements here, but overall, nothing that's going to make me run out and spend $2,000 on a phone. So again, I just really feel like these events. I think Steve Jobs would be rolling his grave to see an event like this, because there wasn't enough. And to me, for the absolutely billions of dollars that Apple spends on R&D, I just frankly feel like these are kind of a letdown. So that's kind of everything they went through on the Glowtime event. And again, I just kind of feel like this is the Apple playing catch-up event. And again, you're going to be like, yeah, you're an Android fanboy, and that's true. I've been an Android fanboy from the day they launched. I was running through a bucket and found my old original Droid the other day. Good old Droid, right? Like when it boot up. Anyways, yes, I am an old. And again, it's because from the beginning, I enjoyed the ability to have full control of the device rather than the lockdown nature that the Apple ecosystem is. I still pick up somebody's phone and be like, how do you go find the file? They're like, you don't need to look at the file. I'm like, anyways. So anyways, that's it. To me, the real big shout out here is the M4 chip and the A18 chip. Those are the big parts to me that I would love to see. I wish there was some way we could hack on these in a different way. I would love to run Android on one of these and see how efficient you could do. I bet it would be amazing. But there's some exciting opportunities here for developers. So make sure you kind of dive in and make sure that you're running up to the latest. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think I'm just an Apple hater? I'm a little bit. I'll admit it. But at the end of the day, I do try to be an open mind and see where people are making innovation. One of the things that we're definitely seeing here is the push towards AI on the devices. And I've been talking about this for a while, and that's really even down to the chip layer design, we're seeing such a huge investment on how we're going to use AI, or these, I even hate calling it AI anymore, these LLMs. And in this case, this would be a small language model that's going to run on the chips. And so they're even designing them into the hardware. The bet on these large corporations on AI is so big, and I really think this is an advantage for developers. Dive in, figure out what you can do with it. So now that we know all these things about the Apple and the Apple release of the iPhone 16, the A18 chip, the M4 chip, where it has all these new impressive capabilities to be able to process language models, what are you going to do with it? That's my big question, right? What are you going to do with it as a developer to make this amazing? Because I think that's really on us. And I mean, I would love to see Apple do something amazing with it, but I think it's going to be up to us, and I think it just really unlocks our ability to dive in and go check these out. So, what are your thoughts? Do you agree? Disagree? Love having great discussion. Best compliment you can give me is leaving comments down below. So make sure to leave a comment and make sure to like and subscribe. Here at StartupHakk, we love to train software developers in our coding boot camps and to build custom software solutions. So reach out, we'd love to help. Hit the link down below, or check out StartupHakk.com today, or check out StartupHakk.com/Spencer if you're looking for some custom consulting, and we will catch you guys next time. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, because we bring you lots of great tutorials and tips that every developer should know. See you next time.